Okay guys, I think that we had some technical issues, but I want to get back into the forecast. So we're going to get a thumbs up if we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn right now. But if you guys are watching, let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me, that we are live. And we'll continue our forecast. So we're going to continue right where we left off. We're going to pick back up where we left off. We're talking about tonight. We could have a few showers across the eastern side of Texas and northern Louisiana. We've got a lot of moisture in this area. Your dew points are climbing, so the likelihood for us to get some sort of rain, some sort of moisture is not out of the question. But the severe stuff, the stuff that I really want you to keep an eye on, that is going to arrive tomorrow afternoon. Maybe some light rain in the morning, severe stuff in the afternoon. Here we go. We start in eastern Texas, and then we move into Louisiana. We'll zoom in here in just a minute, but I want to talk about the big picture. You can see a line of storms that's going to bring that flood risk, anywhere from Arkansas to Tennessee to Kentucky up to the Midwest, snow north of that. That's going to continue to track to the east through the overnight hours. Here we are early Sunday morning. We still have stuff on the radar, and we're watching those storms track across places like Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. Now let's see that one more time. Let's zoom in, and let's talk about the big things that you need to know here. Storms start out isolated at first. So you may see a line of storms, but the severe risk is isolated right now. This is in the early afternoon. The biggest hazards here will be that high wind and large hail risk. The tornado risk, it's on the board, but it really starts to come into effect later on in the evening. As we head into the evening, those storms will slowly progress to the east into Arkansas and Louisiana. That's whenever our risk changes from just a hail and a wind risk to a hail, wind, and tornado risk. But as we progress farther into Mississippi, we're going to transition into a wind and tornado risk. That hail risk goes down as we get farther into the late and overnight hours and early into the morning. High wind, you'll probably hear the wind outside of your door, and you need to have multiple alerts because the tornado risk will be on the board even through the overnight hours, even after the sun goes down, even after you go to bed. These tornadoes are really tricky to see because, check this out, is a line of storms. This is what we call a QLCS. What that means is that we could get embedded tornadoes inside of this line of storms, and they're very difficult to see. This will continue through the early morning hours on Sunday morning, and then into Florida, across the East Coast throughout the day on Sunday. Now let's break down your hazards. I told you high wind, hail, tornadoes. What are we talking about here? Let's start with hail. This is your significant hail model. Our colors are looking a little bit more impressive than what we've seen so far this year. I like these colors, especially for an early season storm. We've got some yellows in here that could mean about quarter-sized hail most of the time. So I'm not expecting massive hailstones from this. I'm expecting right around the size of a quarter, maybe a little bit larger than that. So there we are, highlighted there in yellow, anywhere from Memphis all the way down to Jackson, across the northern side of Louisiana and southeastern side of Arkansas. As I mentioned, this risk will start to die out as we get into the overnight hours. The sun sets, give it an hour or two, and that hail risk basically goes away. So the best chances for hail will be anywhere from Lufkin, Texas, all the way up to Shreveport. Baton Rouge, a low risk, but it's still on the board. And then you can see hail all the way up to Nashville. Where are the best chances for hail? Even though it's going to be on the smaller side, even though we're starting right around the size of a quarter, maybe a little bit bigger than that, we're looking at anywhere from Jackson to Shreveport, Greenville to Memphis. If you could draw a circle right in here, include southeastern Arkansas, not Hot Springs, not Little Rock, but include the southeastern corner here. Go to Shreveport, go through northern Louisiana, up to Mississippi. That's where we're expecting the highest confidence for hail. So we are the most confident that in those areas highlighted in yellow, that's where we'll see hail. Taking a look at that max forecasted size, as I mentioned, right around the size of a quarter. Could we get isolated ping pong ball sized hail? It's possible. I think it's pretty unlikely. High wind, that's going to be across a good portion of the southeast tomorrow. That high wind risk anywhere from Memphis to Jackson to Tuscaloosa, but we could get as far south as the Gulf Coast and as far east as Atlanta as we go into the early morning hours on Sunday. That wind risk will be a problem the entire time, starting in the early afternoon out in Texas and moving all the way out to the east into early Sunday morning. The tornado risk, actually pretty impressive here. That tornado risk is in the level 3 category, which Hail Trace, our risk level, that's the high category, highlighted there in red. It's also hatched. What this means is that we have a really good chance to see at least a few tornadoes, and of those few tornadoes, they have the likelihood to be strong, EF2 or higher, especially in that area that is hatched, that you see those little dashed lines in. That's where we're going to see the strongest tornadoes. Anywhere from northeastern Louisiana to southeastern Arkansas to Memphis to Jackson. And then, I mean, of course, we could see tornadoes as we head into the overnight hours as these storms move to the east, but they start to lose their likelihood, the likelihood to see tornadoes. So let's break it down. What did we just talk about? We have that tornado risk on the board and that wind risk. Those are going to be your two main risks. Hail is definitely possible. It's going to stay on the smaller side, about the size of a quarter, maybe isolated a little bit bigger, and that flooding risk there. Your storm categories, we've been talking about this before. Most of the storms that we've seen so far this year have been that base severe thunderstorm warning. However, on Wednesday, when we had that last storm risk, we did see a few of those storms that had that 70-mile-per-hour wind gust. They were warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds, so I think that that's where we could be tomorrow. Okay, we're not really seeing that large golf ball size hail, but we are going to see the high wind. So I think this is what we're watching for tomorrow right there. 80-mile-per-hour wind speeds, I don't think so. Baseball-sized hail, yeah, right. Not tomorrow, unfortunately. I know a lot of people are looking for those larger hailstones. I don't think so. Early Sunday morning, I talked about that these storms will continue as we head into Sunday. Yes, we do have a marginal risk. It's a level 1 risk all the way up the East Coast from the panhandle of Florida all the way to North and South Carolina. And then by Sunday evening, all of the severe storms are moved out. The snow sticks around. Now we transition into winter weather. What is that coming into the plains? By the time we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, yes, we have another risk for not only cold, but also winter weather. We're watching for snow and ice. You see the pinks start to mix in there? There's the ice. Anywhere from the northern side of Oklahoma all the way into Arkansas, that's where we're expecting ice. Snow up to the north, Kansas, Missouri, and into the Midwest. How much snow are we getting? Let's take a look at this. These are snowfall totals mixed in with your ice totals here. Not terribly impressive until, actually I do want to mention, we could get some ice this weekend out to the north and east. Our ice models are really trying to put more ice out there. They may be overdoing it a little bit, but I did want to mention that. All right, what are we talking about for snowfall totals? They're looking the highest, potentially double digits. I think that this may be also